4th grade. Today I'm going to help you with the Chapter 10 review in your textbook on page 218 and 219. I'm going to do all of 218 with you, and then you will do 219. So the first one on 218 says, what is the correct answer? What is 2/3 of 45? And you have 4 choices. Remember that when you find a fraction of a number, you have to take your whole number, which is 45, and divide it by the denominator. So 45 divided by 3 equals 15. And then take that answer and multiply it times the numerator. 15 times 2 equals 30. So 2/3 of 45 is 30. And then number 2 asks you which fractions are equivalent to 1/2. Remember, equivalent means the same amount. So we have 2/3, 3/6, 4/10, 5/10, and 6/12. Remember that if a fraction is equivalent to 1/2, the numerator is exactly half of the denominator, like on 5/10, because 5 times 2 is 10. So 5/10 is equivalent to 1/2. So is 6/12, because 6 is exactly half of 12. And so is 3/6, because 3 is exactly half of 6. But not 2/3 or 4/10. And we can get fraction strips to check to make sure. Okay, so here's 1/2 right here. And here's 2/3. I can see that 2/3 is larger than 1/2. Okay, and then we have 3/6, which I said is equivalent. So let me just show you that it is. There's 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. And then we have 4/10 and 5/10. We said that 5/10 was equivalent, but not 4/10. So let's look and see. There's 4/10 we can see is less than 1/2, but if I put one more tenth on to make 5/10, it's equivalent. So it's 5/10, but not 4/10. 4/10 is less than half. And then 12ths, 6/12. We said is equivalent. So let's just double check. Let me show you. Okay, there's 6/12, and that is equivalent to 1/2. So it's 3/6, 5/10, and 6/12. All right, the next question, number 3, asks which fractions are greater than 2/5. Okay, so we'll take the fraction 2/5, and we want to compare these 5 fractions: 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 2/3, and 2/4. We want to see which of those are greater than 2/5. So let me get out 2/5 right here. And we'll start with 1/2 because we already have it out. And we can see that yes, 1/2 is greater than 2/5. So yes, we'll circle that. Okay, now let's compare 1/3. I can see that 1/3 is less than 2/5. And my next one is 1/4. 1/4 is also less than 2/5. Okay, and then I have 2/3. And 2/3 is greater than 2/5. Then I have 2/4. Now, I already know that 2/4 is the same as 1/2, which is equivalent, which is greater than 2/5. So 2/4 should be greater, but we'll double check just to show you that 2/4 is greater than 2/5. So it's 1/2, 2/4, these two are equal to each other, and 2/3 are greater than 2/5. All right, then on number 4, it asks you to order the mixed numbers from least to greatest. So if I look at this problem, I want them from least to greatest, and I see I have 4 mixed numbers. I can see already that C and D I can eliminate because 2 is bigger than 1. Okay, so and 2 is bigger than 1, so those are not going to be correct. So it's either going to be A or B. So let's look and see what those choices are, because those the ones come first. So we have 1 2/3, 1 5/6, 2 1/5, and 2 1/4. Right, that's A. And then choice B has 1 5/6, 1 2/3, 2 1/4, and 2 1/5. Okay, so I need to decide which is bigger, 2/3 or 5/6, because the whole number is 1 on both of those. So here's 2/3, right there, and then 5/6, it's right here. That's only 4/6, and 5/6. All right, 5/6 is greater. All right, so we should have, if we're going from least to greatest, we should have 1 2/3 first, and then 1 5/6. Okay, now let's just double check on these to make sure that 1/5 is less than 1/4. And we should already know that it is, because if I cut a pizza into 4 pieces, they'll be bigger than the slices if I cut 5 slices, because 1/4 is bigger than 1/5. See, 1/4 is bigger than 1/5. So A is ordered from least to greatest, A. Okay, now number 5, it asks you to find 16/64 in lowest terms. Remember, lowest terms, we can say simplest form. It's the same thing, 16/64. And you're given choices. Your choices are 8/32, 4/16, 4/1, and 1/4. Those are your 4 choices. Remember that when you put a fraction in simplest form, you divide numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor. If the greatest common factor is 1, then the fraction is already in simplest form. Well, if I look on my factor sheet, I don't have 64 on there. So I'm going to start just knowing that 16 and 64 are both even. So I'm going to divide them both by 2, because that's a common factor. It's not the greatest common factor, but it is a common factor. So that would be 8/32, which is a choice. But that is not simplest form, because if I look on my factor sheet, I can see that 8 and 32, the greatest common factor is 8. So I can now divide numerator and denominator by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 32 divided by 8 is 4. So 1/4 is 16/64 in simplest form. My greatest common factor was actually 16, because 2 times 8 is 16. So I could have just done it in one step and done 16/64 divide by 16, divide by 16. That would be 1/4. But it was easier to divide by 2 first and then divide by 8. But either way, I end up with 1/4. And number 6 asks you, what is the mixed number for 3 5/8? Well, the whole number is 3. The fraction is 5/8. 3 5/8, which would be letter B. So that was page 218. Hopefully you did that along with me. So what you're going to do now is page 219. So number 7 is just like number 3. You're comparing fractions to 5/8. You want to find which fractions are less than 5/8. Use your fraction strips to do that. All right, you got part of a set here. Remember, divide whole number divided by denominator. So number 8, 16 divided by 8 is 2, and then times your numerator. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, then you have equivalent fractions here. Remember, multiply numerator and denominator by the same number. So 5 times 2 is 10, so 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, order from least to greatest, use your fraction strips. And then order from greatest to least, use your fraction strips. And then you have 2 word problems. So that you're going to do this on Monday, and then Tuesday during the Zoom class we will go over all of the answers to make sure you have everything correct, because Wednesday you will have your Chapter 10 test.